Rory McIlroy skipping FedEx St. Jude Championship, what it means for the PGA Tour. Rory McIlroy is missing from the FedEx St. Jude Championship field, and it's causing quite a stir. The PGA Tour's FedEx Cup playoffs are set to kick off next week in Memphis, Tennessee, but the world number 2 golfer, fresh off his Masters title, won't be teeing it up. This decision has sparked debates about strategy, player priorities, and the evolving dynamics of the PGA Tour. But here's where it gets controversial. McIlroy's absence isn't just a personal choice. It could reshape the competitive landscape of the playoffs. Let's break it down. The St. Jude field is determined by the top 70 players in the FedEx Cup standings after this week's BMW Championship. McIlroy, currently ranked second behind world number 1 Scottie Scheffler, already has a guaranteed spot in the BMW Championship the following week. That means he doesn't need to play in Memphis to secure a place in the later playoff stages. However, his decision to skip the event isn't without context.
Last year, McIlroy finished second to last at the St. Jude, a tournament he's never won.
In November 2024, he told The Telegraph, "I finished basically dead last there this year, and only moved down 1 spot in the playoff standings." His words hint at frustration, but they also raise a bigger question. Is this a strategic move to conserve energy for the Tour Championship, or a subtle critique of the PGA Tour's scheduling? And this is the part most people miss. McIlroy's absence reduces the field to 69 players, which could alter the dynamics of the event. For fans, it's a missed chance to see one of the sport's biggest stars in action. For competitors, it might mean fewer obstacles in the path to the Tour Championship. The playoffs will continue with the BMW Championship and culminate in the Tour Championship, where the top 30 players will battle for the FedEx Cup title. Meanwhile, McIlroy hasn't played since a T7 finish at the Open Championship 2 weeks ago. His next move will be critical. Will he return for the BMW Championship, or will he focus on the Tour Championship? The golf world is watching. What do you think? Is McIlroy's decision smart strategy, or does it signal a growing disconnect between top players and the PGA Tour? Share your thoughts in the comments below.
Why Rory McIlroy skips the FedEx Cup playoffs opener.
Rory McIlroy's choice to skip the opening event of the FedEx Cup playoffs has caught many by surprise, even though he announced this plan months ago. But here's where it gets controversial. Despite being one of golf's premier players, McIlroy is sitting out the season's first playoff event, igniting questions about how top athletes manage their schedules in high-stakes competitions. The commitment list for next week's FedEx St. Jude Classic, which serves as the first of 3 playoff tournaments concluding the PGA Tour's regular season, was recently released based on the latest FedEx Cup standings. Notably absent from this roster is Rory McIlroy's name. Now, this decision doesn't really hurt his chances of winning the FedEx Cup overall. In fact, McIlroy's spot in the Tour Championship at East Lake is essentially locked in, regardless of how he performs in Memphis or the following week at the BMW Championship.
Currently holding second place in the standings after a stellar season that includes 3 victories, most prominently the Masters, he maintains a comfortable lead of nearly 850 points over third-place Sepp Straka. Out of the top 70 players who qualify for the playoffs, McIlroy stands alone as the only player skipping the opener, and he hasn't competed since finishing tied for 7th last month at the Open Championship. It's worth noting that McIlroy's past performances at the FedEx Playoffs opener haven't been stellar. Last year, he started strong with a 68 at TPC Southwind, but slipped dramatically over the course of the week to finish tied for 68th out of 70 players, practically last place. Even so, that poor showing only nudged him down from 3rd to 5th in the FedEx Cup rankings, which likely influenced his November announcement to the UK Telegraph about planning to reduce his tournament schedule this season.
"I'll probably skip the first playoff event in Memphis," McIlroy said in that interview. "I basically finished dead last there last year, and I only dropped 1 spot in the playoff standings." He also pointed out 3 other tournaments, the Cognizant Classic, Valero Texas Open, and RBC Heritage, that he competed in during 2024, but is unlikely to play in 2025. Indeed, none of these made it into his schedule this year. So, if he participates only in the BMW and Tour Championships, McIlroy will have made 16 starts on tour this year, 3 fewer than last season. Interestingly, he did add the Texas Children's Houston Open to his schedule for the first time since 2014, showing some selective adjustment rather than cutting back entirely. Another reason for his decision may be his historical struggles at TPC Southwind. The best he's ever done there was a solo third-place finish in 2023, where he closed strong with a final round 65.
Yet in 2022,
He missed the cut, and in 8 starts, he's never captured a win in Memphis. There is, in fact, a precedent for McIlroy skipping the earliest FedEx playoff event, but it dates back to when the playoffs included 4 tournaments instead of 3. He opted out of the Northern Trust in 2018 and the Barclays in 2015. This marks the first time he's missed the initial playoff event since the format was shortened. Adding another layer to this story is the new FedEx Cup bonus structure introduced this season. It has shifted the focus toward rewarding consistent performance throughout the regular season rather than primarily allocating bonuses based on the Tour Championship results. Thanks to his second-place standing, McIlroy is already guaranteed $4 million for his regular season finish, and an additional $6 million via the Comcast Business Top 10 earnings. What does this mean for players and fans alike?
Is McIlroy's strategic decision to skip the opener simply a smart management of workload and schedule, or does it reflect a troubling trend where top players prioritize selective events at the expense of competing in all playoff stages? Some might argue it reduces the excitement and integrity of the playoffs, while others may view it as savvy career longevity. Where do you stand on this? Do you appreciate McIlroy's approach to navigating the demanding PGA Tour calendar? Or do you believe every player should compete fully through the playoffs to honor the competition? We'd love to hear your opinions and spark a conversation in the comments below. Jack Hirsch, Golf.com editor. Jack Hirsch serves as the associate equipment editor at Golf. A native of Pennsylvania, Jack graduated from Penn State University in 2020 with degrees in broadcast journalism and political science. His passion for golf runs deep. He captained his high school golf team and recently returned to coach them. When not writing, Jack stays involved in competitive local amateur golf. Before joining golf, he spent 2 years as a multimedia journalist and reporter at a TV station in Bend, Oregon, where his roles included producing, anchoring, and weather presenting. You can reach Jack at jack.hirsch@golf.com. Rory McIlroy skips £15 million event. How PGA Tour rule change affects golf's biggest stars. Rory McIlroy's choice to skip a massive £15 million event has sent shockwaves through the golf world, and here's why it matters more than you think. The Northern Irish golfer won't be competing in the first FedEx Cup playoff event scheduled next week in Memphis. Surprisingly, McIlroy's name didn't make the 70-player list released by the PGA Tour for the St. Jude Championship at TPC Southwind. The officials have yet to provide an official explanation for why the 2025 Masters champion has decided to sit this one out. But here's where it gets interesting. A subtle change in the PGA Tour's rules, specifically regarding the Tour Championship, could be the main reason behind his absence. Currently, McIlroy ranks second on the FedEx Cup leaderboard, just behind Scottie Scheffler. In previous years, skipping a playoff event like this could have seriously hurt a player's chances of clinching the Tour Championship. However, the recent tweak to the scoring system means that missing one event won't necessarily derail McIlroy's quest for the title. To give you some background, the Tour Championship previously used a staggered start system, where players began the tournament at different scores under par based on their FedEx Cup rankings. For instance, McIlroy would have started 8 shots under par this year, while Scheffler would have a 2-shot advantage at 10 under. This system sometimes produced controversial outcomes, like last year when Scheffler won the Tour Championship, despite other players, such as Colin Morikawa and Sahith Theegala, posting better raw scores during the event. The PGA Tour has now scrapped this staggered start format, opting instead for all players to begin the Tour Championship on even par. This change means that as long as McIlroy finishes somewhere in the top 30 on the FedEx Cup standings,
his chances of winning the Tour Championship remain just as strong as those of Scheffler or any other top competitor. This is a massive shift from years past, and fundamentally changes the strategic values of participating in every playoff event. Because of this, McIlroy has little incentive to push for second place in the FedEx Cup rankings by playing the Memphis event, so long as he remains securely in the top 30, which is highly likely, given his consistent performance throughout the season. The playoffs do offer quadruple points compared to regular events, so there's a possibility his ranking could slip slightly, but dropping out of the crucial top 30 cut is hardly expected. But let's not overlook the elephant in the room. The St. Jude Championship carries a hefty prize pool of around £15 million. By skipping it, McIlroy is potentially missing out on a staggering amount of earnings.
With the world number 2 absent, the tournament field shrinks from 70 to 69 players, and unlike some events, the PGA Tour will not replace him with another competitor. Add to that the scorching weather forecast, temperatures expected to hover around 33 degrees Celsius throughout the event. This tournament promises to be a test of endurance as well. Critics argue that McIlroy's decision is a blow to the PGA Tour, which relies on star power to attract fans and sponsors, especially for such a lucrative tournament. The big question now is whether this new rule change will inspire other top players to follow suit and skip key playoff events, potentially diminishing competition and excitement. Meanwhile, Rory McIlroy is focused on preparing for the second playoff event, the BMW Championship. His absence in Memphis is certainly notable, but it also signals a strategic shift that could reshape how top golfers approach the season-ending playoffs. Do you think McIlroy's move is a smart way to manage his schedule,
or does it undermine the spirit of the competition? Share your thoughts and let the debate begin.